on March 15th, 1986. This home is located in Camden Circle in Sun City, Arizona. It looks as if Bob and Marjorie are at home today. How you doing, Mother?
Fine. It's a beautiful day.
Yes, it is.
We go for a walk.
Dad didn't take a walk this morning.
Yeah.
You didn't take a walk this morning, Dad.
No. He's too lazy.
How about that? How long have you lived here?
9 years.
9 years. A little better March 15th than you found it in Nebraska, right?
Right. It wasn't as warm in Nebraska, March.
Maybe Dad misses all those snowbanks. I don't know.
No. Do you, Dad?
What?
Did you miss all the snowbanks in Nebraska?
No. Well, yes, I do in the winter.
You do?
The winter.
You miss them, huh? Well, maybe we can get some snow dumped on your driveway.
You want to go back where the snow is?
No, I don't. I don't want to.
Why not?
Oh,
Huh?
oh, I don't like that cold anymore.
This is what a retired farmer from Nebraska does during the winter in Sun City, Arizona. I think you'll find Bob on this chair every day during the winter. What do you think of it, Dad?
I love it.
You really love it, huh?
Yes.
Looks like it's made for you. Fits your body pretty well.
Well, I think it does. Fits my legs, too. Stand over there, Mike. Eastern Iowa, and Grandpa comes from Switzerland and settled in Illinois, and then he moved to Eastern Iowa. That's where I was born.
Whereabouts in eastern Iowa?
And, well, that's in Delaware County.
That's northeast part of Iowa then.
Northeast part of Iowa, about 40 miles out of Chicago. That's Manchester, Iowa.
What? How many? How long did you stay there?
Oh, I was 5 years old, or closer to 6 years, when Dad took me to Iowa in 1900. I was about 5.5 or 6 years old. And I can still remember getting on the train, me and Mother and my 2 brothers, when we headed for Nebraska. Dad had bought a place, a farm, and it looked pretty rugged. When it was sparsely settled in eastern Nebraska.
Where'd you come on? Did you get on the railroad, the train, or?
Mother and us children, 3 of us older boys, my young sister, we come in the passenger train and stayed with our neighbors they knew in Illinois until Dad could straighten the house up. It was just a two-room house, and we had two beds in it, and us kids slept three in a bed, and the folks slept in the other bed in the same room. And when we first come here, a bedroom and answered and the room answered the purpose of the kitchen and living room.
Did you say that? I thought you mentioned anything about putting the cattle and everything on the train.
Yeah,
You got the depot waiting.
yeah. Dad put the machinery and a cow or two and 4 head of horses. They had them immigrant cars at that time. Yeah, big, tall box cars. And it put 4 head of horses, a couple of cows. I don't think it took any pigs with it, but all the farm machinery in one car.
Well, then,
When we got to Nebraska, we stayed in our people we used to know, Dad's friends from eastern Iowa, until Dad unloaded the car and arranged a house so we could live in it. In a two-room house, there was 4 or 5 of us children in the family then, and we were quite crowded, but we all slept in one room, 3 in a bed, big room.
how many were there then? You see, there was you and your dad and mother, and Adolph, and you and Fred and Lizzie.
Yes, and I think John was a baby.
So then you build on later, didn't you, the house?
Yes, the house was sitting kind of in a draw, and the winters were so cold there, no foundation. The house is on blocks, no foundation, and the floors got so cold. And then Dad moved that up on a higher level, about a quarter of a mile, and built a barn there, and the buildings are sitting there today, for all I know.
Well, then you live there all the time till you went farming for yourself?
No, then when I was 5 or 6 years old, we got the train come Nebraska.
No, I know, but Dad, when you got to Nebraska, you lived there on the same farm the rest of your...
Yes, and we lived in the same farm until I got married and left home and farmed for myself.
How old were you when you got married?
I think it was about 22 years old.
And you were born in 1894?
1894.
Mm-hmm. No, and that was what, November 2nd?
November the 2nd,
1894.
1894.
Well, that's quite a little ways, because now it's 1986.
Well,
That's you're 91 years old,
yes,
and you're still going good. How about that?
I haven't got an acre pain.
Still working.
Well, that's good. Well, I can see by sitting in that chair, and it wouldn't give you too many aches and pains.
No, I like the climate here in Arizona.
Okay, well, we'll turn to Mother now, and I'll ask Mother to tell me when she was born and where and so forth,
Well, I
and
don't have
her
much-
background.
I don't have the background like Dad does because I was third to the youngest, born 10 children. So I don't even remember my older brothers. And
Well, now, were you how many children in your family?
10,
And where were you in that area?
third from the youngest.
Third from the youngest.
And now they're
Now,
all
your parents' names was what?
Bain.
I know, but what was their names?
Oh, James Buchanan.
And your mother?
May Asina.
And your dad was born about what year?
I better go get my book.
Well, no, but approximately.
I don't know.
You know what? Where was his home? Where was his home?
Where was I born?
No, my father. I have it all down when he was born, when he died. He's born in Shelbyville, Indiana.
Now that's southern, I think, southern part of Indiana, as I remember.
Shelbyville.
And then his
But his parents came from Wales, my grandma.
Bain.
Bain. Bain.
And then your grandmother's, your mother's maiden name is what?
Phillips.
And where did her folks come from?
Germany.
From Germany. You don't know what part, by any chance?
I feel sad that I have never asked my mother a lot of questions. Never asked Ellie. Now everybody's gone but Ruby and I.
Now you were born at what I would call Pearl Creek or Coleridge, Nebraska.
Well, at that time, our church and everything was at Magnet.
But you weren't. That was your home then, at Magnet, Nebraska.
Well, that is it'd be closer to Coleridge, I guess. But we always went to Magnet Church.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Christian church.
Right. And then you lived there. You lived on the same farm, or did you live on different farms?
No. We lived on the same one until Dad bought 80 acres there at World War I.
And that was near Pearl Creek, because I remember going to high school, riding the horse there. Elmer and I both went to Pearl Creek High School.
That's right.
They only had 10 grades there, but we went there. Okay. Then you say, would you give me the names of your brothers and sisters, starting with the oldest?
Alec, Cleve, and Elvin, and then Ada, and then Lloyd, and then Marion, and then Ruby, and I, May, and Lola.
And then just you and Ruby are left,
That's
right?
And Ruby's 4 years older than I am.
And Ruby lives in Sioux City.
Mm-hmm. So there.
Has Ruby been down to visit you here in Sun City?
No.
She never has.
No.
So, but you see her when you go back. We call
I've been
home
seeing-
there.
Yeah, I've been seeing her almost every summer.
Okay, and then how did you meet Dad?
At a dance.
Barn dance.
A barn dance.
Yes, well,
Where's the barn dance at?
On somebody's farm.
Uh huh.
whose farm was it? They used to have those big barn dances.
Near Magnet, Nebraska.
Uh huh.
Yeah.
And that was when? 1922.
Two.
I see. Or was it earlier than that? You got married what? May 3rd, 1922.
Well, we must have met. Well, we only went together 4 months, same as my mother and dad. No.
So that must have been, you must have met around in the wintertime.
We was, because I bought close to them. He had a car,
What kind of a car did he have?
Dodge, with, you couldn't roll the windows up. He had side curtains. And the side curtains weren't any good.
No front doors
And
on the body.
we went to a dance again. Oh, it was cold. And anyhow, those side curtains, the wind come up and blew them off, and I thought I'd freeze to death. So Then the next week he come to see me, and he had a brand new Ford Roadster. Brand new.
Ford Roadster?
Brand new. No, it was a Ford or Dodge. Dodge.
Um,
Yeah, it was a Dodge.
Because when you got married, didn't you go on your honeymoon up to Minnesota?
Yeah, that was in the Dodge.
And what happened? I thought I heard you mention one time what happened with the Dodge car. If she was coming back or going
But
up.
that was on our honeymoon. That's when Elmer and you was a little baby.
Yeah.
He's coming back from Sioux City saying like, I don't know what now. Ruby would have been there then. She's in North Dakota. Well, he must have went to Sioux City for some reason. But anyway, we was on our way home and coming down the highway, and there's another car in front of us, and she stayed right where we wanted to pass. Finally, then Bob decided, well, he would go around. He's going to stay there. Just as we went to go around, he decided he'd get on the other side. So our bumper hit his, and we bounced right on top of his car. Just two wheels on the ground, the rest was on top of his.
And Elmer and I was in the car too?
Yes.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, so you went, well, you was old. You weren't very old. Elmer was a little thing. Just think, we could have been killed, or I could have, thrown us against no seatbelt them days. And that fella, he knew he couldn't figure out what happened. Stopped and he blew a tire for his car. He looked out from the back window. All he could see was something on top of the car. So he stopped, and we had quite a time getting our car from him. Oh, what time? It was good and dark when we got home. But nobody got hurt, thank goodness. But that was quite an experience.
Well, the roads probably weren't too good either in those days.
Well, there wasn't. No, there was no.
That was before Highway 20.
Oh, yes, there was mud and whatever you had. It was a long time ago.
Well, now, you went on your honeymoon, though, to Minneapolis or St. Paul or?
No, Madelia.
Oh, Madelia. Oh, I thought you went to the State Fair.
We did while we were there.
Is that it? Where was that held at?
St. Paul.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
that's
went
what I
with,
thought.
Adolph and Lindsay and Albert. We all went. Bob's brother. Yeah.
Then your brothers lived in Madelia at that time, right? Farming?
Yeah.
Adolph and
Albert.
Liz's
Lizzie.
husband,
Albert.
Yeah.
Albert Arduser,
Yes.
at Madelia, Minnesota.
Yes.
I remember going up there a couple times. Very good area. Very good farming area.
Oh yeah, Albert owned 6 farms up there. He had 6 children, Albert and Lizzie. He gave a farm to every one.
Well, I think, Dad, you mentioned that your dad was going to leave a farm for each of the 12 children. Is that right? Your father was going to leave a farm for every child, quarter section?
Well, that's what he said, but he didn't make it.
What happened? The 30s come along?
Well, times just weren't, the hard times coming along. Early settlers had a pretty rough time making a living.
But he retired early.
Yeah, he really
He
did.
retired to Harrington at early
Well,
50s.
He
He retired in 1922,
he was a good manager.
that
and-
fall. We were married in the spring, and we went to Hartington in the fall.
And he farmed a section of land when us boys was home. Dad was a good manager.
But didn't he have a lot of land he bought on
Yes,
sort of like we call contracts?
He had bought a half section up near Gross, Nebraska. That'd be about 50 miles from where we lived.
And then he lost everything but the home farm?
When the hard time comes, he invested in the home place, and then the hard times come, and he didn't lose any land, but there's a lot of people couldn't make payments on their farms, and they went back to the owner again, foreign owner.
Right. Well, then he lived in Hartington for he moved to California.
When
Yeah, after he lived there till Mother's passed away.
Now my grandmother Munter had TB, right? In Kearney. She went to Kearney, Nebraska,
And that's where she died.
and I believe she died in the early 30s, 36 or so. Sometime. George, your brother George, died in 1932.
I got that all down in my little book in there. When he
when he died from what we
That was
would
when
call
it
a
ruptured.
ruptured appendix.
That's right. It's terrible.
Yeah, he was in his early 20s, as I recall.
Yeah, it was.
And then now, after your mother died, Dad, and then Grandpa moved to Long Beach, California, right? And stayed there until he passed away?
With my two sisters.
He died there.
Emma and Helen.
And Lillian, Emmalou, and Helen.
They all three of them then lived in Long Beach in that area.
Yeah, yes, in that area.
Right. So then he passed away, and they're all buried in Huntington, right?
Yes, they're buried in Huntington.
Yeah.
That was a county seat.
Right. That's where they moved from the farm. I remember the house on Lemon Street.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
Yeah, I remember that. Going up there many times, and they had a 2-bedroom house. I remember being there when I was 4 years old after I left the hospital there for appendicitis. They took me
Yeah.
down to their place.
That's right. You had that done, didn't you? That's right.
Yeah, good old Dr. Johnson and his ironing board, but
Yeah, his ironing board is right.
for an operating table. But well then, now Mother, your mother died first too, and I think she died around 1936. And then your dad lived for another how many years?
He lived about 6, 7 years.
How old was your mother? You remember when she died?
71.
And your dad?
85.
85. And then how old was your mother when she died, Dad? You remember?
I think I was 69.
And then how old was your dad?
I couldn't tell you that.
Now your dad's name was Gott. Dad and Mother are going to attend church as they do every Sunday morning. And Dad, it's a little early, but I know you always like to leave for church about an hour before it really starts.